Wedge 1, Green leader, Caroline J doing preliminary interviews while going round the works at Barlaston.
Can I have you first?
Caroline and Richard. Yeah. No, we only got sort of halfway round this morning.
Did you see the demonstration area? You saw the visitor centre and the demonstration area?
Yes.
This is just basically most of that on a much larger scale. Can I introduce Caroline and Richard from the Victoria Theatre?
Hello.
He's one of our prestige ornamenters, and he's the best person to talk to, I think.
Oh, this is the Josiah Wedgwood anniversary plate. It's a green plate. It's on what we call a white spattic body. The green has been sprayed on, like you spray a car, paint, you know, and put back onto the wheel. Have you seen these turns?
No, we
you
haven't.
seen them? Oh, well, it's quite interesting to see this. You'll more than likely see them. So, anyway, basically the idea is we put them back on the wheel, we throw it out of gear, and you're sort of cutting and missing, So you've got white, green, white, and these are lilac when they're finished. Now you've got Josiah's head in the middle, and a gold lettering goes on all the way around there. Now these are it's quite tough. I cannot take that. That's a camel head brush. Use water as a medium. All as it requires then is very fine drop of water, which gives you slip. after placing your figure in position, you've got to eliminate the air pockets between the two figures, you see. And very, very light, very, very light touch. Now that's that border there. That is the, this is the little star.
It's Michael Archibald, call 629.
They found a way in there. I put a couple of those on. Actually, what we do, we like to go complete all those first, you see. And it goes 276 ornaments on this one particular plate. There you've got the next dicing, which is going a wee little bit bigger. Which is that one.
And what is this job called?
This is ornamenting.
Ornamenting.
Ornamenting pottery, ornamenting. Now the next one going in there, of course, which is
And have you always done this?
yeah, what a boring life.
Not at
14.
Not at all.
Oh yeah. Oh, mind you, variety is the spice of life, as they say. We're not on the same line day in and week out, you know. We do have changes. That's a matter of putting that there for let it dry off just a moment, and then I'll apply that hair.
Mr. Harris Garrett, call 752.
Now, this is what we call the little flower and frame. These are a matter of being lined up. So you can understand now why it takes such a while actually to complete the plate.
Yeah.
You're getting 276 ornaments, and you've got to give each ornament the same attention as one another. Now, we'll show you how we really make a slurry of slip when we're putting a big figure on.
You must get a great satisfaction when you finish one.
Oh, well, yeah, like actors, you know, yeah. Now, you'll see I'm applying a bit more pressure here than usual because it's a bigger figure. It looks as though you're pressing on, but you're not really. It's a very, very delicate touch. You could soon, you know, alter the features of the person. Now, after complete ornamentation, we reverse them over to get the plate pretty well through. Same as this. This is beginning to go stiff now, so we turn that over. Just run a sponge out. And then they come out like this, you see. They'll take one here now, which has been drawn. Now this is the state as they enter into the fire.
Sales department, call 512.
That's right. Now on the back of each plate you'll get Wedgwood. And if you see a R on any particular piece of wedges, that means registered. That is a limited edition, a limited number. On the other side, you're getting the year 80. Now there, X. Now X is the chap who's turned this plate. He puts his mark on it. If it's a bad one, from a turning point of view. Okay, we've got it. Same as AW there, that's me. If mine's a bad one, see, they've got me. They get Wedgwood made in it. And there you are, you've got your plate. That'll find its way into the fire. for every inch, it will lose an eighth of an inch. So that when it comes out of the fire, this is going to be considerably smaller. Not like a rice pudding rises. This goes the other way. And that's the Josiah way you play. Here you get something else of a different. This is a sugar to a set of what we call domestic employment we were doing. That is ready for firing now. It finds itself the sugar to a set of a coffee pot and cream, you see. Those are what we call the domestic employment or Lady Templeton figures. Now this will be, well, that's green. This is a primrose and black. You see? So you've got another variation. Now there you've got another, a Guyot mug designed by Professor Guyot, or very likely of Josiah's 1730, 1795. Now, where you've got green and white, there also lilac. What we've got here now is blue and white, the traditional wedge of blue and white. That's another souvenir mug.
Did you have to do an apprenticeship when you started?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we did 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. I think it was a good thing to. They don't do it today. And I think this is where a lot of trades eventually petter out. You know, we get youngsters going in, but they didn't do 7 years. I mean, for every shilling Zion in those days, at the beginning, every shilling I earned, I was stopped sixpence. So that when I became 15, I was stopped 5pence. I had a penny rise. When I was 16, I was stopped 4pence. That's how you went through. I mean, today now, they want practically the top rate of pay, you know, and yet they don't know the job. I don't know. Basically, I don't know whether that's right or wrong, really.
Have you always worked for Wedgwoods?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you did your apprenticeship
here
with Wedgwoods?
Yeah, we did 7 years there. As I say now, like I don't know, it's a good thing or a bad thing for industry in general. I mean, we have such a lot of trades which are dying out.
Yeah.
I think that they ought to come back in that field where.
It must make a higher standard of craftsmanship.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've seen it in our own particular wares now, where 90% of the ware with thrown and turned. We can't honestly say that now in the pots. Jollying is coming to be simplified. Basically, your thrower is it's the nerve centre, it's the beginning of the pot. When jollying came into being, that was taken away. It cheapens an article. You're getting the same thing, but in my opinion, it isn't. Anyway, you form your own opinions on that.
No, that's what we want to hear. But still, I mean, this is still very individual work, isn't it?
Oh yes, yeah. Would you like to see some of the big work?
Yeah.
Oh, wrong one. So that's a swear box now. These are drawings. This is why we any particular pot of any value we put a padlock on so people won't go there. And these are ready for firing. There you get your Portland bars. This is a white and blue Portland bars. A Portland blue and white bars. And here we get something which is quite unique. It was done in the 18th century, the latter part of the 18th century, the snake angle bars. Black and white again. Now, we look at one of these. figure underneath.
And these are exactly the same as the ones that were originally made from the last
Number
version.
2, that's the one who at the in the 16th century, who the madmen smashed, and anyway it was fitted together again, and it's still in the British Museum. And then Josiah had a replica, a copy made, and this is it, which we do exactly today of what Josiah did.
And do you do these?
Yes. Oh yeah.
And
We all-
they done the same way as you showed us
Oh,
with
yeah.
the slip, and
Yeah.
then you.
Yeah. See, you get the other one. Oh yeah. There you'll get.
Well, that's yours.
That's number 12. That's me in the middle. The year 80. Then we go round to the other side. And there we get Wedgwood made in England. Okay. We can't stamp it. Everything's got to be stamped with Wedgwood, but we can't stamp underneath there. So the next best thing we did it there. Anyway, that's the port. Now this is the snake animal. Now there's the plinth, and that's the foot to it. It has a hole right the way through. Right the way. Now these are bolted together once they've been fired. That will find its way on there with a pin through, and through the bars here, of which they got the figure. The snake wrapped round there. And look.
How many of these do you make now?
Well, we've got an order for 50.
Is that's unusual? Is it? Would you normally make that many now?
It is unusual, but as things are, if we can get an order for 50, we'll do them. As the potting industry is at the moment, going through a bit of a sad phase, but we've met up with this before. We'll just get it. We hope anyway. So if you've got a lot of money, start buying one.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Bye bye.
We'll go back in there in a moment. I want you to go and meet this chap who couldn't get down.
What was his name before?
Albert Williams.
Albert Williams. Yes, thank you. That was Albert Williams.
Mr. Tommy Burks, who's the section manager
Hello.
returning, Caroline and Richard from the Victoria Theatre. So,
We're ignorant. Could you tell us a bit about what you do here?
well, I'm the section manager of the throwing and turning department, and I've been here 35 years. And I've got 12 trainees, besides the turners, handlers, throwers, and casters. What else do you want to know?
Well, what happens here basically?
The throwing and the turning, what exactly does that involve?
Well, you've got a seed for me to explain.
Can you show us?
Oh yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, now this is the prestige department, and as you can see, this work is very, very, very important. You know, and when that plate's finished, that's about what's the price of them, Jim? About Jim? What's the price of these plates now?
Approximately £310 each.
This is the gentleman that, if you saw in the Sentinel last week, Sir Arthur was demonstrating the Portland bars. He got a Portland bars gun. Well, that's the gentleman that turns it. And them are over £1,000 a piece. And we average about 7 or 8 a year, don't we? Half a dozen Portland vases. We do sometimes.
Recently done about 10.
You done, yeah.
How long does it take you to turn a Portland vase?
Me actually to turn one.
Yeah.
I do about 5 a day. But you know, that's me turning, but it takes the ornament is 2 days to ornament one.
Yeah.
A lot of work for ornamentation.
It takes an hour about 2 hours to do one. thanks, yeah.
Great. Thanks very much. Thank you.
That's the lathe. That is over 200 years old. That's the original.
Based on the
That
original
is
design one.
that
That
is
is the original.
This is it. That is the original one. That is the original one. That is the lathe. That is. All what we've had done, we've had a motor put on, renovated a new motor to just demonstrate how you use the water. See that? Well, if she had to do this all day, you know, she'd have. Well, she does on some work, but we try to eliminate that by introducing the motor. You see, but in the olden days, that's what they did all day, for 8 hours a day.
Stiff left leg, wouldn't you?
But she does when she's on plates. She has to do it quite a lot during the day.
Fine, but you aren't doing that all day because you're pulling it round by
You can rotate it with your hand. You see.
Mr. Harry Garrett, call 752.
Thank you.
That is one that we've had renovated. You see. That's another one, but that's a copy of that one. You see.
So they're both pretty old.
Oh no. Oh well. Yes, but that is definitely 200 years old.
200 years old.
That's
Still in
authentic.
use.
And you can't improve on the original, really.
Oh no! Oh no! Basically and theoretically, there's nothing different to that one than to Sir Josiah's. Only that's new. The principle's exactly the same.
Yeah.
He was an ingenious man. He was, honestly.
Yes, he was.
But for me to explain, it would be far easier for you to stay there for a part to say about an hour and a half, and you'd be intrigued of what the lathe does.
Mm.
But you're not allowed to, see. Only very, very special people are allowed to watch the fruiting. Honestly. This is the throwing department. We used to have 9 throwers, but we've got 2 in a trainee there. Now, these 2 young ladies, that's a rare combination of a man and wife. Well, we don't get that very often. And there's what it is called, they are actually called a baller. But that's a correct, but it isn't a very nice word to use, so they use thrower's assistants. Well, the idea of it is, as you can see, she cuts the clay and weighs it. That's a little bit under, because she really is. And she cuts the bits off. That's got to go up. Let's go back, and then it's weighed properly then, see. Now, then when she balls it up, by doing that, she's just eliminating any little creases that are in the clay. Then she places it on there so as the thrower can pick it up and throw it on. I thought you'd ask me why he does that, but if you put it on like that, he wouldn't be able to throw it on. He wouldn't be able to throw it on properly, you see.
Call 2323.
And does each thrower make the same shapes all the
Or
time?
alternatively,
Alternatively.
oh yeah. His name Robin Larkin, he'll be on these, we give him order of 90, 60 or 90, you see. And then we'll do them. While he's doing them, Fred Allen is making them as a seal. We can do the same. And then that's what the thing started with. That's that there.
And are the handles made in the mould?
No. They didn't made in the they made over there in the yeah, oh yes. You can see one throwing if you like. Very interesting. more he works the clay, the better the result is. What he's doing there is eliminating any little hard lumps that are in the clay, or a little bit of air gets in, you know. But when the clay isn't in good condition, it'll spread. It'll spread that, so therefore it'll have air in, but that's in good condition, see. That is called A4 bars. It goes a grid to them and all. You put them separate.
Have you always worked for Wedgwood?
Yes, I did a little bit for I was a porcelain turner at first. I've sang all over the country.
Have you?
Oh yes. I sang at the Victoria Theatre before he was born. No. 12 years ago. The first nightclub ever to open the Pottery, the Victoria Theatre was. First nightclub ever to open.
Really?
And I sang on the second night. Beautiful it was, but then, and they went bust.
Yes, yeah.
Killed everybody.
How long have you been doing this actual job? You're supervisor, is that
Oh,
your
yes, I've been a manager 12 years. Just over 12 years, yes. What happens is the manager retired, so it's left entirely with the firm. They either have someone off the lathe, well I work on the lathes, or they promote someone with degrees, or you know, whichever suits the firm. But it's always been a common practice to have someone off the lathe because they understand everything that's going, you see. You don't have to teach me nothing, you see.
Yeah.
Now that young man there, I'm teaching him, he's taking over from me when I finish, you know. But another thing there is, you see, all them tools there,
Yes.
15 to 16 years ago, you had to make all those yourself.
Really?
Oh yes, every turner made, yes. This gentleman's named Mickey Bird.
Hello.
Now, these tools here, those are the tools we had to, each turner had to make those himself. Like, that's only one. That's only one of many, but that's what they are, you see. Them are all carbon tip tools. And they last, these tools here, what you call a square tool, these here, each turner used to have about 7 or 8 of them on his side. They used to file them up all day. So you can imagine he had 7 or 8 of them on his side. Every turner had more than half a dozen of those on his side. He had to file them all the time. Now that will last any one of those turners a fortnight or 3 weeks. That one tool, as long as it's looked after, you know. But that'll last 3 weeks. The square tool will alone. Now all those other tools there, as you can see, you had to file them your own. You know, you had to make them yourself. You see. And you file them yourself.
Do you need different tools depending on what
yes,
shape
well,
you're
that's,
making?
that's all them there.
So they're all specifically Wedgwood ones?
Oh
then?
yeah, nobody else is. And then here's all the drawings here. All the drawings. That's what we use. Whatever drawing we want, just take it to the turner, whatever drawing we use.
And those, presumably, those shapes, those drawings have been passed down for years then?
No, there's a lot of fresh ones.
There's lots
a
of
lot of
fresh
fresh
ones,
shapes. Oh
yeah.
yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. We've got duplicates just in case something happens to any of them drawings in there. See, we've got duplicates. All them are.
Yeah.
All them are the same as what we've got in there, just in case. Now all them tools are on there. Anything else you want to know?
Why isn't anyone allowed to watch the lathe in operation? Is it because the lathe is a sort of
Oh
secret?
yes, oh yes,
But the actual
oh
machine
yes,
itself
yes,
is a
definitely,
secret.
oh yeah. Sir Arthur, all the directors and Lydiard who's in there now, they have got permission. But if any other visitors there, there's no one allowed. It's very, very intriguing to watch it. And this is the gentleman and his friend that made that other one up. They copied that other one, and
So it's unique, that one.
oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, it's unique, all right. I'll be with you in a minute. Yeah, well, I don't want to do something I don't know.
Right, thanks very much
Anything else?
indeed.
Are you all right?
No, that's fine, thank you.
It's all right.
All I am doing is letting you have as long or as short as you
That's
want.
great,
You
that's
cut
great.
it short if you want to. Or
No, that's smashing, because it takes a little time sometimes for people to
people
start
start
talking.
Yeah. And you don't have much difficulty when you want to get going. As I said, it's slightly out of chronological order, but the basic problem is trying to catch people at any given moment.
Yeah, well, that's the matter at all.
So what I thought we'd do is we go back and see the lady who's working next to Albert, who will be talking to you about figure making, which is making puppets that go on the side of pieces supporting bars and what have you.
Hello,
Chairman
hello.
of Victoria Theatre.
How do you do?
Mr. Ian Turner's code 253.
This is the Apollo plate. I think it's for television awards. I wouldn't say for sure, but there goes a gold stamp underneath there. And it is for some theatrical award. That is Apollo. Usually I do the, have you seen the Josiah medallions? Just four colours. That's terracotta, pale blue back, terracotta, black and a white head. I think there's a limited edition of 250 of those. Also the three colours, that's pale blue, dark blue and white. It's also a limited edition. But is it figure making you want to know more
Yes,
about?
that would be smashing.
Shall I take you across and show you?
Please, yes.
Mr. David Belton to call 523.
They're picture mould. When we say picture moulds, that's clay fired hard, so that they'll withstand the knives, because they fill the clay with moulds, the moulds with clay, then they take the surplus clay away, and with yes, sir, a steel spatula, they ease it out, gradually ease the figures out. That's the process. And then they put onto these bats. That's plaster of Paris moistened with water, and that keeps them in a moist condition. They have to be the same consistency as the pots that we put in them on, otherwise they won't adhere to them. But you can see the way that it's done. Of course, this hasn't been altered in any way from the first Josiah. No, it's still done in the same way. The moulds will last about, all depending how they're used, about 2 or 3 months, I think. Yes, about 2 or 3 months they last, and then, of course, as you're scraping them away, it's taking the detail
Yes,
away,
yeah.
and they're thrown away then. That's suction and leverage. Do you want to try to get one out? Give you a better idea.
Yeah, do you want to have a go, Rachel?
Yes. Come on, we'll go to Aggie.
Mr. George Marsh. Mr. George Marsh to call 119.
Are you coming to work, Aggie? Are you coming to work?
Yeah.
Shall I fill one? Shall I just fill one? You can come and carry it. Only using your knives, isn't it? Well, it is.
Do you all have your own set of knives?
They have their own tools. And you can tell straight away when you pick somebody off with a tool, can't you?
Mr. Warren Park and Mr. Ralph Dunmore.
Are they modern ones, or are they ones that have been handed down, the tools that you use?
No, we have them replaced when they
Aggie, I can't
when
get it out.
yeah.
Oh, it's coming out.
you have to wear them in yourself.
Have you got a rose board or something like that? Which would be easier for you, wouldn't it? Something a bit easier than this one. Moisten it on there, and then you see that? Yes, they are hard. That's the movement.
You've got a rose board there.
That's how I first learned it to draw it. That's what we call paddling. And you push and bring it back again. That's the movement that you give. There you have it. It is a bit, they are a bit
Which way am I pushing? That
Push
way?
that way,
and then bring-
rock it back again. You can spell it. Come on, Aggie, come on, you can tell it for me because you do your tools and you understand them better.
Can't do it at all.
No, yeah. Perhaps this one better.
What's the shape?
They are a difficult little flower on stage, aren't they? Oh, that'll do it, right? Yes. But you get a flower on paper and then you can follow the movement. There are two.
How long did it take you to learn that?
About 12 months now. So.
I think it would take me that long as well.
We used to have a 7-year apprenticeship. It used to be 7 years. But I don't know.
Do they not do that anymore now?
They go into a school, which we didn't do. When I started, we went with an ornamentor and with an older figure maker.
Yeah,
But now they go into a school and they taught them.
Push that way and then rock it back. Is that
Um,
right? You check.
hang on. That's started. It's awkward.
Yes,
Try
it is.
to
Moisten it.
keep dabbing it backwards and forwards on the bit. That's it.
It's coming.
That's it.
Oh!
Oh no. That's it. Let's dab your tool again.
The moisture that helps to bring it out.
You think I'll go
Hopeless.
Get the other piece out. Do you want to have a try?
He was throwing a pot this morning.
How did you do with that?
Never that one.
No, it sort of takes you away, doesn't it?
I didn't do the whole process.
No.
I had it started for me.
It's cheating.
How rude! At least it's coming. Oh, I lost it.
Well, she's getting it out, so she's all right.
Just pinning it with it.
taking the moisture out of the clay all the time. So that when they've used them for so long, they have to put them to dry, brush them clean and put them to dry again.
I'll just start you off. She's out a bit closer to you. Push it down. Push it.
Yeah. Put your forefinger down here.
Turn it
That's
down.
it. That's right. Push it up and then rock it back.
Which way?
That way.
Oh, I've got
That's
it,
it.
I've got it, yeah.
That's it. You rock it back again.
Press it on the thing.
Well, it must be very satisfying when you can do it.
Yes, it is.
Mm.
Are you pressing it?
I've been on exhibitions and I've had people amazingly, they've come and done it straight away. I don't know for what reason, then another person can try
Keep
it.
trying.
Like me, can't do it.
You did quite well. But yourself.
Oh, he's getting.
I'm too clean.
I'm afraid we couldn't put them on little bits like that, could we?
No.
We'd have to do one
Definitely
piece.
not.
It is rather tricky until you've got the knack of it. So.
There we go.
I don't think, are they good?
Yes.
It's a long time since I've figured out.
They were good. Keep them two.
Everything is done in this way. The big figures, you've seen the porcelain balls?
Yes.
They're made with plaster molds, aren't they?
That's
These are
right.
picture molds, as I said, but the others are made into plaster molds. And of
They
course
take
they
longer to get out, you see. You get them out with clay.
and
They've got to be kept wet. Well, moist so that you can get them out without breaking.
and once it's gone dry, you've got nothing dry.
No, I'll
It
just
crumbles and you can't do
Just
anything with
like
it.
that.
That's it, like that. You can't do anything with it. That's why they kept damp all the time. Of course, the plaster molds, they'll only last about 6 fillings and then they're thrown away because you're scraping those away more so.
How long have you been doing this job?
think.
I can't work out your age.
About 24 years. I have to think myself.
Did you actually choose to work in this particular department for any reason?
No, I just like.
Just happened?
Well, came from a visit from the school. And I thought, oh, that's fascinating. I like that. Messing with things.
Mine was from necessity during the war. Because I started in 94, so it was from necessity sort of thing. Either you got a job or you went back to school again. So I started touring in 1940.
But you liked it enough to stay
Yes, I did.
doing
Not
it.
the first 2 days. It was like, you know, the old Pottery wasn't to my liking at all. I didn't think I would have stayed, but still here. And then the women used to go from figure making to ornamenting. They don't do that now, they only take boys as ornamenters. But we did, there were so many of us that went from figure making onto ornamenting. Which was interesting really because you learned the 2 trades.
It's unusual for someone to move from one.
Yes, it is
type of
really.
work to
Yes.
another.
Yes, it is. But it's the kind of job, shall I say, that you can't do anywhere else because it's only done on Wedgwood. So that if you're a figure maker, you can't go anywhere else and get another job. You're tied, really. Figure making and ornamenting, and you're tied with Wedgwood.
Seems a nice place to work though. I mean, all the people we've spoken to. I don't know, it's different when you see somewhere from the outside. When you
It
come
is a
in,
nice place to work. It is, really. I've never worked on another pat bank, but looking at them from when you go into the towns and look at some of them, they're nothing like this, are they? I guess?
No, it's nicely situated.
Yes.
Isn't it?
We think it's marvellous to look out at the green, the
yes.
trees and all.
Instead of looking on dirty towns.
Yes, it is.
yes, yes,
You know.
Times when the rabbits come around the place.
yeah.
And the birds and the squirrel.
Yeah. And I mean, Aggie's never seen the two, but I, as I say, started at a tour, and there were little tiny shops, but just an ornament and two figure makers in each shop. This little tiny room. And you end up with steps, wooden steps to them. So that coming to here, I think that is marvellous. Of course, you've got the bottle kilns there, which you haven't got here. We worked right at the side of a bottle kiln.
Is it very hot?
Very hot. Very hot when they fired. Very hot.
There's hardly any... Sorry, go on.
If you practice long enough, you'd be...
I'd be that fast, would I? I was going to say, there's hardly any other job that I can think of that you're actually dealing with materials all the time, very delicate materials all the time, and actually seeing the results of what you're doing.
And you can see the detail in the figures. I mean, the figures are beautiful. Yes, you can see something at the end of the day, a figure making an ornament in, because you pick the pot up and you say, well, and you say, oh, I've made the figures on that, and Albert will say, I've put them on, sort of thing. So that, and doing the medallions, we've done most of the royal family, and to me that's marvellous. I mean, perhaps everyone wouldn't think of it like that, but to think that you put in the heads on of all the royal family, it's nice. But it's a satisfying job, isn't it?
I think it's more so, I think, than the shop floor work.
Oh yes, yes, because it's
You know, I mean, those girls in there are piecework, and they're going 10 times as fast as us. See, they've got to earn their money, whereas ours is already...
You're not on piecework?
No. Because of the
specialised work.
specialised work.
We come down to an average pay, and although we have to turn a certain amount out, it isn't the same as making your wages every week, week in and week out.
Is that part of Wedgwood's sort of, I mean, there's an enormous concern for everything being very precise and perfect and to the highest standard?
Well, more so in prestige.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I
They
meant.
can't afford to throw that sort of work
Such
away.
prized pieces. I mean, you could lose a little bud vase on the shop floor, and it would only be a few pounds, but to come and lose a plate of 300 and odd pounds, or a medallion even at 50 odd pounds, is a lot of money just to one little mistake.
Do you ever drop one? I'd be terrified.
Not very often.
Well, we're not so bad in the clay form, but I mean, if you dropped one when
yes,
it's been
fine.
finally finished, blimey,
Yeah.
And the fact that although the girls don't put their initial on, we, the ornamenters, we put our initials on the bottom of everything, and you think to yourself, oh, everyone knows who's done this. You don't turn the batteries out because it goes against you right away. They know who's done it, and you just can't afford to do that.
Also, it must be rather nice to have your initials on something
Yes, it
of
is,
that
really.
value.
Yes,
it is, because me, no matter where I go, if I can pick the pot up, have a look who's done
always,
it.
Yeah.
You know.
always
Yeah.
pick anything up that I think I've done to see if I have. And people in the potteries, I don't know if you know this, I always do, I think Aggie does also. If I go into a restaurant or a cafe, I always pick the cups and saucers up and see where they're made. Without fail, wherever I am, always good to see who's made them.
Actually, I nearly had to pay for a lot of stuff in Boots last Saturday. I was showing Avril a good vase in there, and it wasn't a very good one. My sister, just look at this, £10.50. Anyway, I was just putting it back. Underneath, they've got all ice rose, Hathaway rose, bits of pieces of china, small vases in there. And I lost my balance and I went for it. She grabbed hold of me. I just said, oh well, I could have replaced some of it with second.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, dear. I said, come on, let's get out. She's like, gone all off. And that was, I'd spotted that, you see. There's ever so few women.
Is it always women who do the very sort of very small, delicate work? Or does it just depend?
you mean the figure makers?
Both, really. I meant.
Well, there's only 1, 2, 3 women ornamenters left now.
Really?
Yes.
There were there more?
There's only been about 6 of us at any time, but there's 3 of us left now. And I do medallions, which aren't a delicate thing. They're a very precise thing, but they're not pretty delicate sort of thing. But you have to put a lot of detail back in them. But as regards the figure making, the better girls, shall I say this, the girls that take more care with the work usually put on to prestige figure making. Because as you said before, the price is high and they've got to be as near perfect as possible.
And then we've got the girls upstairs that do the cameos for jewellery and that. You know, they do smaller pieces.
Have you ever wanted to change jobs?
Not particularly.
No.
The only other thing I could do is drive.
I
Because
went
this
in-
spoils you, you see.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't it, Margaret? I mean, once you've done this, you know, if you've done nothing else, you know, you're tired because people say, oh, you know, if you wanted to go into a shop, they say, well, have you had shop experience? You've done nothing. You've only done this type of work.
A paintress could go to another factory.
Yeah.
Or a cup maker, a cup handler.
Yeah.
But we can't retire here.
We're tired.
Because
I mean,
it's Wedgwood.
even if we wanted to do flower making, it's not the same
No.
thing. We couldn't do that. We'd have to learn, although we've worked with clay, we'd have to learn how to do that because it's not done like figure making. Yeah. Now we're actually stuck, aren't we?
Yes. They stuck with us and we stuck with them.
That's it.
I mean, they can't go anywhere. They can't go anywhere and get figure makers. If
No, you couldn't do this job
if
anywhere
about
else.
20 girls retired, they couldn't go and get 20 girls from anywhere else. They could go and get 20 paintresses, but they couldn't go and get 20 figure makers because nowhere else is it done. I went into the land army, retired when I came back. I've got to come back into this because there's nothing else. Yeah, it's what I was used to, figure making then.
It's funny though, isn't it, how something strikes you? You know, and I mean, when I got home, my sister goes, I think I'd like to work there. So because they mess with clay. Oh, she says, trust you, you know. Yeah, sort of thing. I think she expected me to come home covered in clay, like you do when you kiddies play with mud pies, because we always like messing with it. And I think that's what she thought I was coming home like.
But have you had anything to do with clay at all?
No, very
This,
little.
this is a lovely clay. Lovely, it's a very fine clay. It's nice to work with. Some of the potter's clays aren't like that, but this is a lovely clay to work with, isn't it?
This has been smashing this week.
It's nice and
We do
fine,
have our days
it's
with
fine body, and it's nice to work
This
with.
is smashing this week.
This is a stone body. It's non-porous. It'll hold water. It doesn't need glazing. Jasper doesn't need any glazing. After all, don't know if you know that.
No, I didn't.
Teapots. Do they still glaze them inside, Abby? Are they still glazed? I think at one time they used to. I haven't looked at any lately because we don't see the finished product unless we go to the warehouse or into the shop. But they always used to glaze usables, teapots, sugars and creams.
And the cups.
And the
didn't
cups,
they,
yes.
the Jasper?
Usables.
Because
anything
otherwise
to drink out of.
you wouldn't drink out of it,
No.
would you, if it wasn't glazed?
But the vases will hold water. It's a stone body. It's a lovely clay.
I have seen cups up there that aren't glazed, so they must be just for show.
Yes. But as we said, it is a smashing furniture. Lovely position now.
I don't know whether I'd like it as much in the other department.
No.
In here, we're smashing on.
Yeah.
We like to do our own little shop.
And you're doing something very special.
Yes.
Right, well, we let you get on with it. Thanks very much indeed. Bye-bye. I keep forgetting names. What were their names?
I wonder what the young lady was who was doing the figure making with Sarah.
Aggie, somebody. Yeah.
What was Mrs. Margaret Roberts?
Mrs. Margaret Roberts, that was, and Aggie. No, it's me.
People very quickly get used to the fact that you've got a difficult with your hand, don't they?
Well, I try and, make it disappear a bit.
I think if Aggie's prepared to admit the fact that she's been breaking the stuff, it works.
Because the needle's not moving. But perhaps it's because we're not. Yes. No, it's tied in.
Yes,
as we start to come to start.
Caroline and Richard, when you're ready.
Well, will you take over, June? I'll let June take over the wages because okay?
Take over, not take.
We're ignorant. We just want to know a bit about what your job is and what you do.
You haven't got that on, have you?
Yeah, but you can guess like that. I do. If you don't look at it, I won't look at it.
Forget your tongue and roll. Well, I'm responsible to see that all the enamelling. Have you ever seen any enamelling? You know what enamelling is?
No.
Well,
Show us.
I'll show you. Well, this is a finish plate. There's an unfired finish plate. That's what we call wet enamel. That's got to be put through the kiln again, and then it'll bring the gloss up on it like this plate is there. And the girls have to paint all that inside the print by hand.
And that the lines are actually there. They paint.
Oh yes, they paint on top of the print. That print has been lithographed, silk screen lithographing. Then we paint on top of the print. That's finished. Now I'm responsible to see that that is done to the correct standard. You know, and if it isn't, then they're in trouble for it. Because I'll show you the girl doing. This is. And that's how they get the plate to them. That's been lithographed with a silk screen litho. And she's got to outline that print, fill in all the white in, raised, you know. If you want to watch the way it's doing. See, and if you're watching close, you can see that it isn't the brush that touches. She's got to train herself, so it's the colour that hangs at the bottom of the brush, and she's trailing the colour round. If she's doing it correctly.
With all of us breathing down your neck.
So if she presses on with the brush, she gets it flat, and then the white will show through when it's fired, and that's a fault. The skill in the raising enamelling is learning to control your brush at the end, the colour at the end of your brush.
How long does it take to learn?
It depends on the girl. If they're not doing it reasonably good for 3 months, then we think there's something wrong, you know, they're not going to make it. That's quality. By the end of 6 months, they should be able to do a good performance on it and do the work properly as well. I think they're at the peak in 2 years, about 2 years. I call it, you know, when they really at the peak.
Is there a length of training? Because you don't do apprenticeship now, do you? Or
Well, they do train, yes. Like I say, about 9 months we generally like to get them piecework, but they're still learning after a bit. You know, they're getting slightly better, the technique's getting, you know, they learn to do the hand quicker with all the practice. At the end of 9 months they should be alright at this job. At 2 years they're fully skilled, but at 9 months they're doing a reasonably good, quick job.
You must have to have a steady hand.
They do. Because if they go over on that print, I tell them about it, you know, and make them get it off and do it again. Or pick it in with the tool that they've got to pick it in, you know. But they have to mark it as well, they have their own individual mark. So if there's any fault with it when it's in the warehouse, we know which girl to come back to.
Oh God,
please. Well, you see, that makes them they've got pride in the work, most of them, but that little mark makes them more aware of it, you know. Because the job's been cut down a lot. When I first started, we used to have to do, like on this pattern here. When I first started, we used to have to paint all that. The whole thing. But no, that's all lithographed, and all she's got to do is just do those few little raised bumps on it. So years ago it used to take you about 5 years to learn all the techniques in it, but it's been streamlined, you see. The same with this hat. We used to have to do all those colours there, but that's been lithographed. Then we just go over the turquoise to give it a raised effect. They're not very good at doing raising on lithographing. It cracks when because the colour's thick. This is one of the most popular patterns, 2740. There's a show to that plate there. That's very popular. They sell a lot of that.
Is it mostly all women, in fact, who do this? Yes,
we've never tried any. On here we've had all women. We've never had any men enamellers. Not in my, you know, since I've worked on here. But we used to have a male raised gilder. But they have men
why
liners.
is that?
I don't know.
Women seem to be better at.
I think it was because it's traditionally a woman's. You know, they've always classed enamelling as a woman's job mostly. But if a fella applied for a job, then we'd have to give him a trial, you know, so he was. Don't you see anything else, or? Oh wait, do you want to see those prestige mugs? Have you seen any of the prestige stuff being done? This anniversary stuff. She's doing some, because we're doing some mugs for the anniversary with Josiah, you know, the inscription to the lady should be doing them. you ever seen any of the gold on black resort?
No.
Brenda, are you still doing your gold? Or are you not going, are you, at the moment? This is what we did. This isn't anniversary stuff, but we kicked off with this black resort with the Egyptian range, we call this. All the Egyptian motifs, you know, that used to use thousands of years ago. We do them in gold. That's a coat of gold, then it's fired, and then we do another coat, and then it's burnished off. And then they've done some of this on the anniversary stuff. So it's got, and it has an inscription inside and the back stamp. And that's gold, that's fired, and it has the inscription on. Then we do another coat of gold, then it's fired, and then it's burnished off. I think they're a bit ornate, but you know, I like them just as they are with the black and white.
Right, yes, they're nice, aren't they, Dad?
This is where you've got to have a real steady hand, because
Yes.
if you doesn't keep the line steady on this, you know, it'll be no good. Then you can't get it off here with it being like a biscuit. You have trouble. Whereas on this you can rub it off.
Yes. Is everybody paid on
Piecework,
piecework?
they're all piecework.
Yeah.
Well, yes, all the factories we try to get at piecework. Everything on the factory, but all my department's piecework, except these, because they don't do enough of these, you see, to have it piecework. So like a prestige pieces, numbered editions, they don't bother. Those are all piecework, these little pieces of piecework, but not these. Yes. Mind you, the girls themselves prefer piecework because they've got more incentive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only human nature, you just do a bit of slacking off if you know you can get your wages.
Yeah.
You know. But they get bored unless they piecework.
Do you do any? Well, it is recording, but it's just not going to be very good.
It's not very clear, it's still there though.
If we listen really hard, we'll be able to get sentences off it.
There's a high hat.
Old house.
No, it's just that you might not the box.
Oh yeah.
Now then, where are we going?
Anywhere that you can show us, we're ignorant. So if you can just show us what you do in this area, that'd be smashing.
Shall we start with the training area first?
Right, yeah.
And you happen to be there now.
Oh right.
So we've had four girls from school, and one who is a little bit more experienced. She's been working at a factory the employees have been made redundant, so we found her place here. So shall we have a look at one particular girl?
Yeah.
Now, before they start to work at the bench, I tell them all about safety, etc. in the department, what it's all about. They've left the schoolyard, and they start earning their own, not exactly their own money, but they earn for themselves, you see. So we start with a film on training. We carry on working with it. But it happens that they're not on this particular pattern that you're going to see on the screen. But they have done in this past week. Now the methods are set down for this particular pattern and every pattern that's done in this department. Methods. And methods are very, very important to these girls. Otherwise, they would fall by the wayside when they're earning their own money. We train for about 6 months on all different patterns through the department that we do. And until they are fully experienced
experience on these patterns do we pass them or graduate them into another section where they'll be earning their own wage. And I feel sure, and I'm certain, that when they've finished in this training section, they are, you know, quality-minded, Wedgwood quality-minded, and I'm really proud of them. So we'll have a look at this screen for this particular method on this particular plate, and I'll return it, and then we'll start from the beginning. This is a Florentine 10-inch. The young lady in question that's on the screen is doing the correct method, sat down for all the operatives to learn correctly. Okay? It's quite unique, this method is, I think, you know, as regards training.
Can you talk us through it as she does it?
Pardon?
Can you talk us through
Well,
it?
what I've done, you see, while she was doing the application of that plate, I'm at the side and telling her what to do. It's not on tape. My recording's not on tape, but she is there listening, and I'm telling her what to do. She's positioning the spray onto the plate, squeegeeing with the squeegee, in position, in a circle around the edge of the plate. The squeegee movements are to remove all surface water or bubbles which will create faults when they're fired. And that is a Florentine 10-inch, as all these girls in this department will apply. Just take that back. Now you've seen that on the screen. Now these girls from school, who 1, 2, 3, 4, watch the screen on the patterns that they're doing. Now I'll show you now their improvements after watching that method. Relax with it, you're alright. They've done very, very well. They've been here 4 days and they've done very, very well. After coming from school though, I think it's a big undertaking, big ordeal for the girls themselves. We help them to relax before they start, you know, and I'm really proud of them this week so far, until they get to know the ins and outs of the factory, and then they start, you know, they've grown bigger than what they are.
Yeah. How long have you been in this section, in this training section?
Oh, I've been here a long time, you know, and especially in life. I've been in life all my working life, you know. But actually, I'm not the trainer. I'm the consultant in the department. But it so happens that well, we've just lost a trainer, and so I'm just filling in. I've got an aide, you know, to help, but at the same time, I've got about 5 caps.
So you've done this.
Oh, I've done all that on the. Oh yes, it's my
yeah.
Yes, it's my trade really. But that's my baby. Yeah, it's great. Along with the filming unit of our photographic department, you know, we've all have to help, you know. But what is on that screen, methods, etc., to help these girls, I religiously guard it, you know.
Has the job changed a lot since you started doing
Well,
it?
when I started to work, it was what you call a traditional stick-on litho. You size the ware with a size, you know, a sticky size substance with a brush about 2 inches wide. You let that dry on to a certain tackiness, and then the sprays were were not like those that you could soak in water and slide off and slide on. You've got to stick them on, get a sponge and rub them on until you've got the impression onto the sides and get the top surface paper away, which is very hard work.
Mm.
It was hard work, really. And then eventually this, what you call cover slide off, was introduced, which is a very big improvement. It's a great improvement. It's not so hard. The girls are not so tired. And I think it's excellent, really. Are you going to remember all this?
Oh yes. Yeah.
So this is our training section, and I think these girls have adapted themselves very, very well this week. Listening, they've been good listeners. Sometimes, you know, when we get girls from school, we get a batch that are not so intelligent and not so adaptable. And I find the girls from school about summertime now are far better, we get a better group then than what we do at Easter time. So I don't know what it is really, whether it's the age of the girl probably, she'd have to go to school a little bit longer. I don't know what it is, but I've always found that really. I don't think I've got an answer for that.
Is it always women who do this?
Now I'm going to take you further up into the section and then show you how they sort of graduate. Women, I've had boys use, you know, up to 18 a long time ago, but they didn't adapt themselves so well as girls do.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's more of a skill for a female photography. In fact, I think boys are more manual somehow, you know, than what is more of a skill,
More delicate.
Yeah, for touch, yes. Shall we move on then now?
I will do as soon as I can.
When these girls are out of our loose the reins sort of, you know, they sort of, I can segregate them who will make a better photographer than the other one. So what we do is keep them to probably more slight patterns or heavy patterns. The girls are trained on heavy patterns, and then we can sort them out if they're not so good on the heavier patterns to a more medium pattern, more medium decoration.
Is the heavy pattern more difficult?
It is, yes, and they get more they're more well paid for that particular application, yes. So we'll go over to where I separate them, and I'll show you what I mean by a more skilled against the more slight application. Now you've seen the Florentine decoration, which is a heavy decoration, as we call it, as we term it in this department. You've seen that. Now I'm going to show you the more medium application, which is this one here. Now you'll see the difference. Now she's just taking the spray off the back sheet, placing it onto the cover and squeegeing it down, and finished. Now you've seen what's happened over there. She's had to be so accurate and so determined on the height of the spray where it's got to go, according to the edge of the point. So that is the difference between medium and heavy.
Yeah.
So I'll take you now over to something, I'll get you something more skillful than that anyway. You've seen the drop-on border on the screen. Now this is an application of border, spray and centre, and this is a heavy pattern too. And Jenny's been with us a long time. She's very skilled and she's very quick. And she's gone through the same procedure as the girls from school. She came from school, she was trained here, and she's graduated, you know, until she's got to one particular height in a, you know, achieving a performance and a wage. Now she's a good earner, good wage earner. And you can see that, can't you? But that is every application. And this is the Pottery crane pattern, which is very familiar in America. It sells very well in America. She's got to be so accurate to getting that bead border to that brown edge line. If it drops a little bit, it won't go. It's got to be turned out. She knows exactly where it goes. Now, a girl coming from school would sort of travel around the spray so delicately, so gingerly, you know, afraid of putting the spray down. But that experience comes as they stay with us and, you know, learn and know and listen to what they've been told. Right, Jennifer, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay.
That is the heavy section, and we've got this is what I call the finishing school. But it doesn't say that they know all of it against these over here. You know, if we've got two heavy sections, we have to split them up because we have two supervisors, one on each side, because the balance would be too heavy for one particular girl. So I'll take over here, and as I say, that particular side over there know as much as these do. But we always say this is the finishing school, I don't know why. Just see what patterns they're on. Well, let's show you. Although this is just a narrow border around the edge of that saucer, it's got to be so accurate and it's not going to show any joinings. And she applies 3 sprays, but if you can find a joining there, I'll be, you know. Okay. She's. I'll show you now where the skill comes that she doesn't show any joining around that saucer. She's running the border to the edge of the saucer, 3 applications. This is where the accuracy comes in the, you know, the joinings, you know, the exact joining to show that it's a circle on application.
Yeah.
See, she's cutting through, taking away from underneath the surplus and taking away the top surplus and the butt join. When that's fired, you won't see any join at all. No join, just a complete green band.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of skill in lithography.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Certainly
Yes,
is.
there is. Shall we go further around now? All the decorations that you've seen got there? Oh, I know. We'll have a look at this. Now, the painting you saw on the screen was Florentine, and this particular soup cup is Florentine, which follows on to make the complete dinner setting. So she applies the board one outside, and then she does the inside skirt, and she's just doing the inside skirt now, if you'd like to look. Can you see there? She's following the skirt to the sketch line, keeping it in line with the circle, because when that is fired, it's enamelled and then lined, and the line round the base of the spray has got to be exact, so the line that the gilder puts on has got to follow the circle. So this is the foundation to enamelling and lining. Experienced, very experienced, all these girls are. All come from school, all gone through the same training and finish up doing, you know, earning a good wage. Thanks, Les. Oh, I don't know if you want to... Are you doing me one? What are you doing now? Are you just putting that? This is the Russian order that we had. This is the Florentine pattern again. This is the Russia. And the order, did it quite a big order of this. It was a massive order. Brought a lot of money in, you know, to Edgy. And it had got to be so accurate, exactly the weight, the height, and the content had got to be so exact. Otherwise, it would got to be turned out. So when this finished piece is finished and packed away, it's got to be exactly. That one has got to be exactly the same as the thousands and thousands that we've done. So you can tell how
yes, accurate, skillful.
That's right, yes. And of course you've seen the enamelling, haven't you? Have you seen the enamelling of the Florentine when that's finished? Yes.
And that's an order for Russia, you said?
Yes, oh yes, we've done quite a massive order for Russia on that. Yeah, okay.
Do you usually know where things are going? If it's a big order?
Sometimes, you know, but we are very interested in the application, getting the job done, getting the quality right, you know, and sending it out from here. Because every week we have a quality meeting, and our percentage of rejects in this department, I would say, average from 1 point to 3 points. So it's about 3 in every 100 or 1 in every 100, and I think that's quite good. When you think about turning 80 to 100,000 pieces out in a week, so I think we achieve that quality and keep to it, you know. So up to me. Up to me. I think there's a way of going around, going to these people and explaining to them from the very beginning that Wedgwood is Wedgwood and Wedgwood means quality. And they are taught that from the very beginning there. I'm very pleased with those young girls this week because they've realised that even a little dot won't go. They've realised that in these 3 days that they've been here. And I'm proud. I'm proud of them when they, when the work goes out like that.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Thank you. That's smashing.
Right, okay.
I hope I've helped you anyway.
Oh, you have. Very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A cup of coffee would be wonderful,
Lovely.
yeah.
That was a supervisor in the training section of the lighter.
gyro, you see. Paid by gyro. I find it's a better way than carrying money about.
Mm.
I don't have to bother about money. It's a very good system, very good.
Well, it goes straight in.
Yeah, it's a very good system, marvellous system. Paying money, the way you can do it, sorry.
Red leader Caroline J continuing preliminary interviews going around Barlaston Works.
Let's see how he gets on.
Well, it doesn't matter.
I'll do the same old thing. You chat to him, I'll hold the machine.
Okay.
I'll pretend I'm adjusting.
I put it on, yeah.
Oh, that's you.
Somebody give you a clue. That isn't what I say, really. Always tell them that isn't me, really. It's my twin brother, but he's a lot younger than me. Oh, yes, he does look younger. Now a twin brother can be a lot younger than me, but still, I mean.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about what you do?
Yes,
Now,
what you do.
you start asking me questions, Mark.
You just tell us what you do. You tell us all about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you about it. It's figure shop.
Yeah.
You've been upstairs and seen casting.
Mm.
Yes.
Yes.
These figures are cast in this mould. Head, arms, body, the bench, the wheel, the base. Cast them all in separate pieces, and from there, you want to take this out of the mould, so it's pretty rough. See all those seams and edges. But now I've got to clean that all up. Each piece has to be dealt with. Eventually, put it all together and finish up with that in this piece. The same applies to this, that. The same applies to the one.
How long does it take you, the process?
There's about 4 hours work in this one, from pulling the mould to this stage. And at this stage, I dry it out, and it's fired, and I do twist of it. It's black as all. That is what the finished product will be like.
Lovely. And what's it called, the job that... No, not the job that you do.
Prestige casting.
Prestige casting.
Now, it's a bit different than casting upstairs. They just pass it on to a sponge. I do the lot.
Have you always done casting?
Yes.
Did you have to do an apprenticeship when you started?
Well, not for this particular job, because this is a bit special for this job. I went through a casting job, and then I didn't progress into this job. This is a specialised job, because these are little collector's pieces and limited editions and that kind of thing, very expensive pieces as well.
Must be very satisfying when one's finished.
Well, yes. I mean, these will be somebody's sideboard in about 200 years' time. And rotted and forgotten about. Somebody will be proud of it, no doubt.
Do you always work up here or down here rather, in the... Yes.
Yeah, there's only me doing this particular sort of a job, you see. There's one or two.
But it's not just for demonstration purposes?
Oh, no. These are all for the market.
Do you train anybody else? Will you have?
Yes, I'm doing another job. I was doing it very shortly now.
Have you always worked with clay?
Not always, no. I trained originally as a saddler. I mean, it's the same sort of a job, basically. It's working with hands and, creating stuff.
What made you change?
And all the horses went. When I got back at the army, there was no horses left. Anybody could turn a tractor around on the yard or a tractor. So it wasn't guiding things. It didn't make a lot of difference to the job. And that's what's looking down to the reason. Still very solid.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to learn this,
Those questions.
or are you still learning?
Leaving in about a couple of months, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
There's something different on each job that crops up. There's little snags. There's no two jobs are different, and nobody can say they know it all about it. They never will do. Go sliding in your life and they know it all.
Is that what makes the job interesting? That it's always different and there's always something.
There's always problems with the first. You've got to overcome somehow or another. Sometimes there's a bigger failure rate with some pieces than others. And there's always some kind of a problem. You never get a job straightforward, they can just bang it out and that's it. This is part of a series we're doing of different trades. There's this, and wheelwright, there's miner, reaper, what's the other one? Miner, reaper, wheelwright, pottery.
Are they all for individual orders?
No,
Or they're set?
It's a limited edition.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's limited to 100 of each. 100 sets. These run out about 150, 175 pounds.
So your work is presumably all over the world, as it were. I mean, bits of your.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I mean,
Anywhere from the White House, Buckingham Palace, all over the place.
and is your mark there somewhere on each one?
Each one, yeah. I'm off with a
Yeah.
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 Do you work in a lot of different bodies, or just with a
no,
vessel?
any sort of body.
Yeah.
Not of the sort. That's just,
Oh yes, of course, yes.
just now, you go in different colours.
Mm.
Well, mainly black basalt, but anything.
Do you have a preference?
In the bodies, well, black basalt's a nice body to work with, but it's mucky. You just can't get it out of your fingers, and it won't wash out before it gets right into the pores. I'm off for the next fortnight, so soon when I come back, I'll be ready again to start mucking myself again.
What do you enjoy most about working with clay? Is there anything that...
Well, no, not any one thing.
Okay, no.
It's just, creating something a bit different. You see, these, I can only make these for about a fortnight, and then I can go on to something else. And sometimes I make as many as 5 or 6 different sort of items in a week. And, it's different from up in the casting shop, the ordinary casting hall. This jobbing is, they're just repetition jobs. This is different all the time. It's always something different coming up.
Is there more opportunity at Wedgwoods to do different things than there would be at another pottery firm, or is it all much the same?
No, there's a vast selection on Wedgwoods. I mean, they make anything from ordinary cups and saucers up to the most expensive pieces there is on the market over there. Anything in between. So there's a lot of scope. I think we employ just about all the trades there is for potteries on this, even on this particular pottery.
There aren't so many throwers around these days, are there?
Very few.
Very few. Is Wedgwood one of the few firms?
Yeah. I've no doubt you've seen them. There's about 7 throwers down on Jasper, and the China throwers, there's very few China throwers left. Harry, he's a China thrower. It's very little China throwing done now. That's going out. So it's just since the war started being mechanised on since the war.
Do you think the skills are dying out? I mean, that they will die out, or do you think there'll always be people who are interested enough to...
No, I don't think skills will absolutely die out. I mean, you see, this sort of a job, it isn't carried on many factories, but it is carried on. There's more call on this here than anybody else on the factory. They're getting slapped with. I've been doing working twice as long as I do. Can I make it very few?
Yeah. Amazing. Is it just the heel that's...
Yeah. We did that about 2 years ago. Rain, Bond Street.
Yeah.
Shoemakers. We made the heel, we supplied that heel, and they marketed the shoes.
How much would a pair of shoes like that cost?
Well, originally they were about £75, something like that, but of course,
Now,
2 years.
275.
How practical would that be? Really?
Yes.
That's
Very
strong enough,
strong.
is it?
Strong enough. That's how strong China is. And Jasper's a stronger body than China.
Amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
The thing is, we didn't do it. They're aware, but we didn't do that test.
Well, I'll have to come back and order a pair when I'm richly famous.
Yeah.
Yes, it is actually. It's a very strong body. then that's another. That's white jasper. That's an example of the number of pieces that go in. What pieces are left that have been finished.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, these are all pieces.
These are all pieces. That's lead and the swan. Bits of
Do you use a slick?
That's fire now. It's going to raise with that now. It's just an example, you know,
Yeah,
of the line about that's it. See, that's all going to be cleaned up and all hair marked in and the wing on the swan and the swan's wing over the marked and this taken out. Quite a lot of work in there, like that.
Oh, thanks very much.
Thanks. Okay, cheers. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.
Caroline J. interviewing Harry Derber at Barlaston.
Yes.
Levels
Back
from.
into it. I'll just start off. This W is actually very interesting too. You might want to get her. Good morning. Mr. Harry Derber, Caroline and Richardson,
Hello.
Victoria, and Millicent.
Hello.
I'll leave you to it.
Thank you.
Just move around the other side.
Yeah.
Now then.
Plaguing you too early in the morning. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing here? The job that you do.
Well, I do a bit of everything, really.
Well, tell us about throwing, about how you do it.
Well, the most important thing regarding throwing is, first of all, you've got to be able to centre the particular piece of clay that you're using. That's the most important. You've got to be ambidextrous. Normally, you get a potter thrower anyway, but they're not very good if they're left-handed. They've got to be a right-handed person, otherwise find great difficulty. I don't know why, but it's always been the case that not many good throwers have been left-handed. It's one of those jobs that lends itself to right-handed people.
Do you throw all sorts of different things here?
Yes, bone china, articles, jasper, all through the field really.
Is there a difference with the different clays? Working with the different clays?
Yes. Some clays are what we call shorter, and that means to say it dries quicker than other clays. China is a very quick drying clay, and some of the coloured jaspers, the stains that they put in them cause the clay to dry quicker. The green jasper is a poor clay for a potter to use, a thrower to use. The blue jasper is all right. The black basalt is very good. Earthenware, of course, is all right.
Do they feel different?
Oh yes.
When you're working with them?
Yes. China is the most difficult. The most difficult clay to work. I'm the only one left now.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm the only one who makes in China and jasper as well. No one else on the factory. In fact, I don't think there's anyone in the industry now that does all the blacks, you know.
What's the difference in the feel of the clays?
Well, when you get china, it always appears that you can never get. It's difficult to get a true consistency. In other words, can't. It's like how shall I describe it? You've got to make it like a piece of butter. In other words, when you see a thrower throw the clay on and work it up, that isn't. It does two things. One, you're centering the clay, and the most important is making the clay a true consistency, because it's uneven. You can feel it, the grain of the clay. You can feel it until you get the feel. You don't become a potter really. You've got to feel and know that it's at the right consistency to start. If you work it over and over again, you can spoil it. It's just got to be so. You just got to catch it at the right time.
And the bone china clay is very difficult.
That's the most difficult of the lot, yeah.
Do you have to work faster with it?
No, it's just because the difference between china and the stoneware, like jasper, one is you're dealing with animal, which is bone, animal bone, which can vary, and even the people that make it don't know what's going to happen, you see, because it's animal. And when sometimes you can get clay, you can throw it on here, and it'll go just soft, you know. As you're working, you can feel it going softer. Although to your touch, I get people coming here and saying, "Let me feel the texture." Well, it's a waste of time. I can't tell, and I've been in 50 years nearly. And I laugh at these people, you know, and think, they say, what lovely texture. Well, they don't know what they're talking about, because the only time you can tell is when it's on there. That's the only time you can tell. That doesn't tell you anything, just feeling at it like that. And with bone china, this bone, you can get it the other way about. You can get it feeling softer, and work harder. In other words, work stiffer. Simply, it's because it's the bone, the makeup of the bone itself. You can have all sorts of clay with this. You can never get a piece of clay that's, when I throw it on there, it's exactly the same. There's something you've got to. This is what you've got to do with your job. Over the years, you realise what you've got to do different. And of course, this sinks in your mind when you're young, and it goes through your life. And you're learning all the time. The only time you don't learn is when you're dead. But the old chap I was apprenticed to, he said, when you finish learning, you finish potting. It's perfectly true. Because there's something going on. It's a field that's entirely different than engineering, anything like that. Because with china more so than the jasper, that things can go wrong, and you don't know you've done everything that you've normally done, you know, and then things will crop up and say, well, you know, now the secret of being a true potter is knowing what to do to put it right.
Is there any particular material that you like to work with best?
Not particularly, no. No. You just accept the job as it comes along, and there's a lot of jobs I don't like to do.
Like?
Well, shall we say making small china egg cups with very soft clay, which is very difficult. Very difficult. It's almost impossible to produce. Those are the only thing really now in the china that's made by hand.
Are they really?
There's nothing else. Everything else is machined in the china trade. And in the old days, I made all the prototypes to everything you can see over there.
Gosh. And is the jasper slightly easier than the bone china to work with?
Oh yes. Yes, it's a much easier job really. I was trained as a china thrower, but I can go back. I can go into the jasper. I'm at an age now where I don't want to get involved with anything, any more complications. I've learnt my job. I was the head thrower at Wedgwoods for 30 years, China. I know my job from A to Z China, but that's a tremendous field, that is. But I can still do a certain amount of jasper when they want it, you see. But with the China throwing disappearing, then it's meant that I do jasper as well, you see. I don't like working in jasper, to be honest. I've always worked...
Why not?
I always feel dirty when I'm working in the China, in the jasper, compared with China, you know. There's more finesse, really, with China, more accuracy. I mean, if you're working with very fine China articles, plus the fact that it's translucent, that if there's any variation in its thicknesses, it shows, you see. Now then, in a jasper pot, you can have it all. You can have it this thick, it wouldn't know any different. No one would know. I could tell, because you could, as soon as you get hold of it, you know, and say, hello, he's left too much in the foot or something like that, you know. Yeah. But with China, you can't do that. You've got to do it right. Of course, there again, with throwing, another field, particularly with China, was tool making. You had to learn to make your own tools, you know, which is another, it's a vast. Some throwers that I know could never make tools. And of course there was a lot of throwers, and when I first started work at China Trade, there'd probably be 150 China throwers. Now I'm pretty well the last one now. But out of that 150, you'd only got half a dozen who could make, shall we say, right through the trade, China. Couldn't make egg cups or anything like that. And then there's big cylinders we made, and we've had people come to the factory, and I've asked them, I said, well, can you make such and such a thing? Well, I said, well, you can either make it or you can't make it, as simple as that. If there's no, like, well, I think I can. You can't. You either make it or you can't make it. It's as simple as that. And it's just like egg cups, and say, well, can you make them? They always say no, because they've never done it. There's just certain factories, the big well, they're the big groups now, but in the old days you've got the class factories like Minton, Copeland, Coalport, Dalton, Crown Derby, Worcester. Those who are the cream. Those have always been the cream of the China pottery industry. Those top 6 or 7, something like that, they were the main ones, and they used to pay a little bit extra than the Longston factories, what we call the third grade China, which it was, compared with, I'm talking about pre-war now, I'm not talking about what goes on these days. You could get about twopence for every 20 dozen you did more for working for the fine China factories than you did working for Longston. But it was easier to work in the Longston factories than it was, shall I say, the clay was easier to work than it was to work in the fine China, and that's why you got your twopence extra.
You said about the tools. Do you have to have special tools to work with bone china?
Oh yes. They were entirely different. In Jasper, the clay, the tools are slate. Now then, in the China we varied. When I first started work, they used to come from cow's horn, and you used to have to put them in warm water to soften them up so that they were ready for use. And then, of course, with the advent of the motor trade, we used to get rubber from underneath. Funny enough, in the old days, before the war, they used to have rubber that used to go under the mud guards of these big lorries, and that we found that this rubber, that that they used was ideal to making tools for the China trade. And of course, we used rubber and did away with this. Oh, that's one of the tools. That's over 100 years old. That's a China. That's for egg cups, though. You see. I haven't got any rubber tools, have I?
I don't think you've got any down here, but
I'll show you the difference.
How long do they last?
Forever, if you don't drop them, of course.
Right, I won't drop it.
I had this off a gentleman that when he gave it me, he was 80. He was still working. 80, and that's 40 odd years ago. This is the type we made, you see. These are the Jasper.
And you had to make these yourself?
Oh yes. The secret of it is was putting the bevel on. Actually, this is one when I made when I was an apprentice. It's not a very good one, really. I'll show you the difference if I can find any. I've got about 500-600 at home.
What happens if the tool isn't right and you're throwing and you're...
It marks, and you can't really rib it correctly, you see. This is what we call a rib. When you put it inside, it doesn't clear it as it should do, in other words. See, where in the Jasper, they face the inside of various articles. Well, in China they don't. It's got to be right. It's got to be clear. It's like a piece of glass, really, when you've finished it. That's the difference.
When they first started using, I mean, was it sort of trial and error? Did somebody tell you exactly how the tool had to be made?
Oh, no,
or did you make some that didn't work and then learnt yourself that...
You made the tool to suit yourself. The tools I used, probably another thrower couldn't use them, you see. Well, when I first came to Wedgwood's, the chap who made the tools, he died. And I took over and I said, well, these are absolute rubbish. And they were. And they weren't up to standard, you know, and I couldn't work with them. I couldn't even try to work with them until I'd altered them, you see. I had to alter them to suit myself. But the man who'd used them previously must have been, well, when the actual articles that he made couldn't have been up to what they should have been. The standard wasn't there, you know. I mean, inside it was just like one manager once said. He says, the tools that you used, they're not like this other chap's using. He says, when he's put them in, he says it looks as though he's put a comb inside them, you know, and they're all marked inside. But I was fortunate, really, when I first started with these two old gentlemen, and they'd been through all through the life. I suppose they'd be potting in there before the turn of the century, you see. And they took me under the wing, you know, and put me right. And really and truly, I learnt my trade. I was fortunate, really, with having a good mother and father who weren't bothered about money. And I worked for nothing, really. I left Dalton. I started at Dalton. All my family are Dalton people. I left there after, because the times were bad in the 30s, early 30s, the recession. You're talking about a recession now. The recession in the 30s was 10 times worse than this. And this job came along at Colport, and I took this, and I worked for literally nothing. For 6 months, the manager told me he wanted me to learn the trade thoroughly, because these two old gentlemen, they couldn't last for long. They were 72 and 70, you know. And I said, right. And I used to stop till 7:30 at night and go art school as well, a couple of nights a week. And I learnt in that 6 months. Mind you, I'd also had my training at Dalton as well. But I had to forget most of what I'd learnt at Dalton, because these two old gentlemen said, well, what you've learnt at Dalton, forget about it. This is the way to do it. And of course, they were perfectly right. And I learnt my trade from those two old gentlemen. And I used to sit there, I can always remember, and used to listen to these two old fogies, you know, with old Victorian moustaches, reminiscing. And one was 2 years older than the other, and they used to say, "Arthur, no, you wouldn't remember it, it was before your time, it was only 2 years different." They were good days, while there was no money, but that, I should say, was when I enjoyed potting for say, up till... I've always loved the trade, but nowadays it's gone from my point of view. I mean, there's no artistry now compared to what there was in the old days. You'd got to be a tradesman, otherwise you weren't in a job. Now you've got cowboys, half tradesmen, shall we say, never done 7 years apprenticeship, which we had to do. Nowadays, we've got so-called training officers and all this, that and the other. I know they wouldn't like me saying this, but still, it wants saying. They don't know nothing about throwing, they don't know nothing about turning. These are trades that you've got to learn from the master himself, the top man, to teach the boys that come along the trade, teach them right, not training officers looking on a screen. That isn't going to make it any better. Doesn't put that into your hands. The only way you can learn that is by hard graft and being interested. You've got to be interested, otherwise it's a waste of time trying. You've got to be really heart and soul in it. I couldn't get enough of it, I couldn't, when I first started. Oh no, I was really engrossed in it, you know. I lay awake at nights thinking about the job, how I could do it, you know. No, I'm never going to do this job. But it comes, but it's got to, you've got to have the keenness, the enthusiasm to do the job and do it correctly, if you're going to do it at all. And that, I'm afraid, in this day and age, it isn't there. It isn't there. I don't think so, anyway. All they want nowadays is not how they can do the job to the best of their ability, is how much they're going to get. That's the most important.
Is there any one thing, as impossible question I expect, but any one thing that you can think of that's can't even think of what I'm trying to say, that's fascinated you? I mean, you say that you love the job, and right from when you started learning, you were thinking about it all the time.
Yeah.
Why does it have...
Well, it was such a vast field. It was in those days, because where I worked at Coalport, there was not only Coalport, there was the Calden China factory, which was a fabulous ware that was produced. There was no such thing as rejects or anything like that. When you bought a piece of Coalport in those days, that is prior to 1939, or Calden ware, it was all best. So that if you went and bought a piece of Coalport ware, and you knew full well it was pre-war, it was best. There was nothing wrong with it, it was perfect. Because they threw all the below par away. It was expensive, it was very expensive, more expensive than any, I should think, in those days. But you'd got the quality. Nowadays, I could tell you a piece of Coalport immediately, which was valuable, and what's not valuable, by looking at the, immediately you see it. See, today Coalport is stark white. In the old days it was a cream body, and it was changed over during the war because of shortage of materials and all the rest, and they made it into one body. And of course after the war it remained as a white body, which really and truly is nothing like the Coalport as it was made before the war. Calden was a beautiful body, similar, but not as creamy, was it, Mel? It was just slightly, but all top class in the old days. A plate. I can remember coming home on leave from the forces, and the works manager taking me around Coalport. He says, "Don't drop that plate, Harry." He says, "That's 40 quid." That £40 in those days. So it was valuable.
Was it the thought that you would learn to produce pieces of that quality?
Of course. This is why it was always paid far more in excess of any other factory, you know, in the wages, because you'd got to be a top man, otherwise you weren't employed. They didn't want to know you. We had people coming from various other factories, but they couldn't come up to the standard. And of course, they were there for a month and then they finished, you see, simply because they weren't required, or they hadn't reached the standard that was necessary of these people. But I don't like to say this, but the standards have dropped vast compared to what it was. This is in the whole area, not relating to this factory. It's the whole of the industry itself. The standards have dropped tremendous from what it was.
Has there ever been a time in your life when you haven't been dealing with clay?
No, I've been a thrower from when I started. I'm in my, 47 years. That should be 48, started on my 48th year from 1st of January next year. No, I've thrown all my life. I've been doing it from when I started. I've never done any other job. I've probably, to be honest, I haven't. I've never. Well, Mel started with me in
32 years.
No, it's more than that.
32. 48.
46.
Oh, 48 when I came here, that's right.
46.
It's 46.
What's your job?
Oh dear. Thrower's attendant. Thrower's attendant.
Thrower's attendant. Yes. Does that mean you cut the clay and...
Cut the clay away to give it to the thrower, and then when the thrower's made the article, I take it off and put it on either one of those plaster mats or a board, you know, ready for drying and taking away again, you know, for the turner to have.
My right hand, really.
After it's been made, you know.
So you must know a lot about the different feel of the clays as well.
Oh yes, I can tell the different feels of the clay. Immediately you get a hold of a piece. I mean, not just. It's only with working in it so long, you see. You probably get hold of a piece of clay, same as Harry says about the visitors coming here, kind of feel the clay. They say, oh yes, it's lovely, and under my breath I say it's horrible. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because I mean I can tell the difference, you see.
Yeah.
And it just grows with use, doesn't it, Harry?
Yes. Well, Mel normally says to me, he says,
I don't think you'll make this, you know, and you can sort of tell. But it's only with dealing with it for such a long time.
He's never wrong. It always.
We do get some variations in it, you know.
And what, I mean, if you get
At one time, you know, the speed that they used to have to work at, I used to make 15 dozen an hour. That's a lot of work, isn't it? 110 dozen a day for £3 a week. It's true. True as I'm standing here, isn't it, Mel?
Good old days.
I used to get, if I was on good work, 3 shillings for 20 dozen, and then I had to pay Mill out of that. So I got to do 110 dozen a day for 3 shillings a score if it was good work. Well, I couldn't do that because the good work, it dropped you to about 80 dozen. But the other work, which was 2 and 9pence a score, you'd got to do 110 dozen a day to make a living. And they're on about recessions and how hard it is today. I mean, those days you've got to graft. Well, when Mill came out of the forces and first started with me, she lost a stone in 12 months. Just running up and down.
I wasn't worrying about the job. It was just I was running up and down with first one thing and then another, you know, because I mean it wasn't like this. You know, we sort of perhaps be that far away. I have to come from the bench there, walking all the time, you know, backwards and forwards with different moulds, you see, to bring to the thrower. Just to put the lining, what we call the lining, into the mould and give it out and then take it back to the thing to dry again, you see. It's not so hard now, is it?
Oh, no.
As regards
No, but
to
even at this factory, I've made as many as, see these rolls here? Clay Harry used to come to me at, say, 4:45, and he'd say, how many, Harry? 25 rolls. I was doing an hour of those, 25. Shift 25 of them in an hour. And that's shifting some work, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that isn't too long ago either, is it?
no, it's about 5. Before they sent it out, about 5 years ago.
Oh,
does it make I mean, I'm ignorant, I'm sure it does, but I'll ask anyway, a difference as to how the clay is handed to you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
What, can you explain why?
Well, it's you can get some ladies who work and they aren't fingered, in other words, they never be able to get hold of a pot and lift it, you know, nice. That's feel and that's only experience, but some women can never do it. I've had women, I shouldn't say this either, but honestly, they never ought to be doing the job. It's simply because they're too rough, you know. I won't get involved because I might say things I hadn't know what to say. But no, basically, it's funny that is. You can get some ladies who work with you and it's just like a glove. Everything's right. And you can get some that have probably done it 3 times longer than anyone else and they're useless. Useless. You get a piece of clay and you throw it on and you think, what's I done with this, you know? And then the other times you get ladies that work with, that I've worked with, so you just throw it on and, you know, you just go to sleep doing the job. It's that easy. It's the difference between having a good woman and one that, I can't explain it. It's like a woman making pastry, I suppose. You can either make pastry or you can't make pastry. Or you can make bread or you can't make bread.
Types of clay that you use it. You see, you've got to know how to handle a piece of clay and a piece of ware when it's being made. Now, if you're heavy fingered, some of them just take hold of it, grab at it, you know. Well, you've got to sort of know how to pick it up, you know. It's got to be pick it up strong sort of thing, but light in the touch to feel. If you do heavy finger, then you're going to mark the article, you see. But you still got to pick it up firm, you know, have the firmness to pick it up. It's really awkward to explain, really.
So you've got to have a feel for the clay.
You've got to have a feel for the claay, yes. Now, some people could just go and grab it like that, you see, and that's no good at all. They'd mark it. With the clay being soft, they'd probably, if it was a vase, they'd probably knock the vase out of shape, you know. They wouldn't know they were doing it, you see, until the turner got it on the lathe, and then it'd be all floppy.
One of the most difficult things to take off a wheel is a china egg cup itself, because it's been so thin, you see. That is difficult. I mean, very, very few people can do it correctly.
Just knowing where to
Merely, I
put your
should
fingers
say,
at
is the
right
only one who
time.
can take them off, really.
You've got to
This,
sort of put your fingers in a certain place. Come on. I'll show you how to do it.
Was this the first job that you did in a pot bank?
No. I worked with Harry for 32 years. Mind you, we came here together. We worked on the Colthorpe firm before the war.
See, that is when it's in its clay state, and that's it's finished. See the difference in contraction.
Gosh, there's a difference.
You wouldn't believe it,
isn't
would
there?
you? And that is.
What sort of what ratio is that? I mean, how much does it contract?
Well, the turner will turn it to this shape, you see. Obviously, nothing like... the contraction rate is about 16 16.6%, sixth, in other words, roughly a sixth. So if you say you make a cup that is 3 inches high, it'll go down to 2.5, which is a tremendous contraction, isn't it? That is the only thing now in the China trade that's made by hand. Nothing else. I designed that 32 years ago. Made it, and no one else has ever made them. So if you ever buy a China cup, I'm the only one who's ever made it.
I mean, you can pick it up anywhere.
I'm a
It might,
graduate.
obviously, if you squash it, you break it even there. But when it's on...
No one else has ever made them.
You sort of have to get your fingers back. And with it being very soft, you can either go in, out, or you can pick it up whatever. From there to carrying it over here, which you put on a board, like that, you see. You can obviously either squash it one way or the other way, you know, and if this clay is very, very soft, well, it just automatically goes on its own. They are difficult to take off. Well, some people, if they just aren't light-fingered enough to pick it off, then they'll be all shapes. Admitted, I don't do them all right, but I think I do them better than a good many, anyway.
You wouldn't be doing it if you didn't take them off right, do you?
How much longer to do it in any case?
What were the other jobs that you did then before?
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, I used to work for the turn at one time. I don't suppose you've ever seen the old-fashioned lathe that you had to tread with one hand, one foot.
They've got one.
They've got
one here, the old
here.
Westwood one.
Oh yeah, similar to that. Similar to that,
Yes.
only it was much quicker. Not as so cumbersome as that one. That's special for the fluting. But
Yes.
it's very, actually the same thing.
It's got
You
a
the same.
treadle.
That's
Yes.
right. Well, I mean, you imagine what a lady's got to do if he's turning about 100 dozen a day.
You had to sponge a cup, take it off a board at the side, sponge a cup, give it to the turner. Sometimes the turner would hold his hand out over the lathe, you know, and sometimes they couldn't do that. They just put the cup on the side, and he took it off with his other hand. No, I used to throw it over to him. You see, it just catches in his hand. Then at the same time, you still got to
marvellous to
tread
watch,
this
actually.
lathe. You see, you do all that with your hand, and then the thing is input as well. See. Then, of course, the fellow went into the army. This is before the war, of course. He went into the army, and I went on another job then, and that was what we called fettling saucers, little saucers, and little 6-inch plates. You'd have to take the rough edge, put it on a whirler, whirl it round, and take the rough edge off with a knife, a tool, like some sort of edge. It was like a piece of bent tin, wasn't it? Just to put this edge on the edge of the saucer or plate, take the rough edge off, and then just take a sponge over it and sponge it smooth. Well, I've done all sorts of jobs, really. One or two until after the war, you know.
And this is the job you like doing best?
Oh, yes.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why, really. Well, obviously, one reason is my eyesight. I couldn't do a job that was very, very close, you know. Well, this doesn't involve close work at all. See, I think that's the main reason why I like this the better. And it's more interesting. Well, it was more interesting, shall I say. It isn't so interesting now because there's not so much to do, you see. Only that reason, because they've all gone on machines. Mostly on machines. But it was very interesting, wasn't it, when we worked years ago. Plus we've got all the visitors to entertain now, that makes it more interesting.
Is there a difference for you between the bone china clay and the jasper when you're preparing it?
Yes, I think there is. I think the weight has a lot to do with it. If I weighed a piece of china clay, say it's about 3 pounds, and weighed a piece of earthenware or jasper clay,
Same size.
it wouldn't be the same
Wouldn't be
size.
the weight. No, the variation
If I
in
cut
weight.
it the same size, you know, which I say, well, I can normally guess £3, £5, £6, whatever we're making, you see. If I cut that in the jasper clay or the other clays, it wouldn't weigh the same. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose that's the stone in it, isn't it? It makes the difference.
It could be. It could be.
See, the jasper is a stone body. China clay is the bone china. See the bones in it. I suppose that's the reason. I don't really know any other
I
reason
should think
for
that's
it.
what it is.
What happens if you get a difficult, a bad batch of bone china? Do you just have to work with it, and
No,
you don't work with
we
it?
don't have to. No,
I usually turf it back, and
send it back to
the people down in the department don't like it. But then again, I'm not prepared to work with it. And that's it. If I always have a standard, and if I can't keep to that standard, then I'm not going to work. I've always been taught that way, that if I can't maintain that standard, I don't want to do the job. If I can't do it right, to what I call a standard, I don't want to go below. It's so easy to fall down.
If it's made with bad clay, you know, if you sort of struggle and use bad clay, then it's going to be a bad article. See, it can happen. It can go from here, and then the turner's going to be in trouble. See, he can't get his measurements, or it's going all wobbly on the lathe and all that sort of thing.
He's got to get a living as well, you see, in the old days. I
But
mean,
try
I've
and work
always said
to
this, if I
suit other
can,
people.
I'll spend my time with the turners, well, how are you going on, like? All right, well, I'm pleased then. But if he's struggling, I want to know why he's struggling, and then try to put it right, and that's what it's all about. I mean, he's got to get his living, and he's relying on me to produce a fair article so that he can get his living. And if I'm producing a load of rubbish, then he's having a rough time as well. And that's why I wouldn't go below a standard. I'd make what they call it, you know. I do it here. Put it on the board, and I say to Mel, put that on one side. But because I'm only making them suit the visitors, you see. But it isn't up to standard, and then they're thrown away
And
after.
we throw it away when they Otherwise, we've got a court of inquiry. What are you doing that for? What's wrong with that? You know, you just can't say, well, it's bad clay, you know, because they think Wedgwood clay is perfect. See? But it isn't. You get some days when they're very good, don't you?
Oh yes.
You can go through a day.
Well, I mean, this is the China trade itself. In the China clay, in every factory, you get your good and your bad. I worked on various factories. I mean, I haven't worked for Wedgwood. I worked for Dalton, Coalport, and of recent years, I've been loaned out to one of the subsidiaries. You know, the Royal Tuscan. But there's still variations. It never alters the China. You can have sometimes, you know, you can go a week and it's been lovely, you know, everything perfect, and the following week, in fact, what happens now, I've said only just recently, I said that clay has been perfect, and the next box that's come up has been just as bad. Opposite, just from perfection down to what we call rubbish, turn it back again and do it again.
That's the fault of the boat mostly.
But I think, quite honestly, with the potting trade itself, when I was a young fella, and even up to, 20 years ago, there was far more, and I still say it's the correct way to do it now, there's far more work put in down the slip house. That means to say the management was, shall I say, spent more time down the slip house than they did anywhere else. And that basically is how it should be today, because if it's wrong from the beginning, it can't be any good at the end. And the more time that is spent by producing good clay could only benefit the factory all the way through. Now then, we've got machines now which are perfect if they are treated as they ought to be treated. When they first came into the industry years ago, before the war, they were perfect, there was no doubt about that. And of course they've advanced from those years. But things that were done in the beginning are not done today. In other words, cleanliness. It applies in every case. If you're clean, that is your basic to start with. In other words, they put clay into a machine. All right. Now in the old days, they come out of the pug mill there, in these rolls here. Now in the old days, they used to come to work 7 o'clock in the morning so that you got fresh clay to start with. Now then they kept working until 3:30, and then from 3:30 until 5 o'clock or 5:30 or whatever time they finished, that time was spent in cleaning that machine, completely cleaning, so that when it started again the next morning, everything was clean. Now they don't do that. They do it once a week. So consequently, you get all hard clay drying in the machine, drops into the clay, and then the thrower. But I mean, more important than that, I mean, the thrower can throw it away because he can feel it. The machine can't, and that is one of your problems today. One of the big problems. But if you say these things, it doesn't make any difference. You just carry on. But overall, it's bound to be beneficial to the factory itself. Bound to be, because all that clay, if it goes through the machine and it comes out of the biscuit and it's split and all sorts of things, it's only thrown away dead loss. It's the first loss is always the best. So to eliminate that problem, and then you've got a good article.
Is the jasper clay more consistently good? Or I mean, not
No,
good,
the same
is it?
principle applies. Same
applies.
principle. It's better to work with overall.
I mean, you wouldn't get the
You don't have the
vast
problems.
differences.
You don't have the problems. I know that we've had jasper throwers come up here, and they thought that, and they had done a little bit of China, but they didn't want to come and do it again. No. They had thrower on here. You know Derek Halfpenny. Do you know Derek?
Yes.
Well, his father was the head jasper thrower here. A very good thrower too. But he wouldn't never come into China. He said, I could never do that, Derek. It's a vastly different field altogether. To do the lot, I mean, what I do in China now is nothing. I mean, it's insignificant. But to do the job in the old days, when you'd do champagne glasses, all sorts of things that were challenged, you know, they were a challenge to you. Embossed things that probably Wedge would have never seen, embossed inside. You know, all decorations inside, the methods of doing them, and it was a great challenge in those days. I enjoyed it, I loved it. The method of, you better get the tea as well. I say, oh good. The methods that were used in those days, you know, compared with what they were now. I mean, that's why I say that was when potting was potting, and it was being produced by top-class people too. Oh yes, because in those days, you'd got to be good at your job, otherwise you hadn't got the job. It's as simple as that. And really and truly, that's what should apply today. I know we got unions, and you should have unions, but there's a standard that you shouldn't keep people on that'll never make a change. And that's what I'm afraid in the last 20 or so years, we've had people in the trade that never ought to be doing the job at all, simply because they're not up to standard. But they couldn't give them the sack because the unions wouldn't let them.
Why haven't you trained somebody?
They never, they've never wanted one, because I was always young enough in those days to be able to carry through, you know. Nowadays they don't want another one. When what little bit I do in the China trade now, they'll discontinue it, and when I finish, that'll be it. Finished.
And they'll do everything on machines.
Pretty well, yes. Yeah. I think so, don't you?
It looks like that. I mean, all the work that we used to do is on machine now, apart from the excellence. So
Not as good.
I think
I can tell you a piece that I've made and a piece that the machine's made. I just got to go like that with my fingernail, with my thumbnail. Mine will ring like a bell and that'll sound like a crack one. The machine one, that's the difference. Bing! And the point of it is, mine would last for 1,000 years there as well.
it's just a sign of the times, really. I mean,
If you put hot tea in machine cups for any length of time, you know, you get the crack. Because there's always a weakness. When it's thrown, there's no weakness because you've got the equality all the way around the article. But when that tool leaves off, that's the weakness in there.
We better leave you, haven't we, to get
I can go on forever.
Perhaps maybe we can come back and have another chat later on. It's been smashing.
Tell you about the years of the bottle ovens, you know. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Come and chat to you when you do it sometime. You can tell us about it when you
Oh,
do
yeah.
it.
You're not surrounded by
By admirers.
Pleasure
promise
talking
not
to
to
you.
say that feels lovely.
If I dropped anything, you know, edit it like
don't
who
worry.
gets involved
Don't
with
you worry, no. We won't get you sued.
I could have said a lot more, you know, but you have to keep tongue in your cheek.
Yes, right.
You get a studio
Especially when
potter
I talked
that
about
makes one,
ladies
makes
working with
another.
it, you know.
Yeah.
God.
In
Yeah.
this, you've got to make one.
Some of them we get hold of, you know, no, take yourself.
But here you've got to have them the same so that the turner can get the same out of it. Yeah. You're not just working for yourself. I mean, a studio potter does the turning, the throwing. And
Well, a studio potter, this is the secret of a studio potter. This is what you always want to say to him. You see him make a vase and say, now, can you make another one?
Exactly.
Just like that.
I'm just saying that.
That's a true potter.
No, you
Yeah,
can't.
that's a true potter. You got to make them all the same.
Yeah.
And it's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Very much indeed. Thank you. See you again.
Yes.
Right.
Right, yeah, if you come this way. Lynn Miller has some poker notes for you to give to